Okay, next we're going to do a couple of triangle problems. Here we have a triangle. And we're supposed to find the missing angle in the triangle. Two of the angles are 44.4 and 52.7.
Okay,
and we don't know the third angle.
There's a proportion?
Well, we can use the fact that the angles in a triangle always add up to 180 degrees. The angle sum in any triangle is 180. So 180, we can 80, subtract off your 44.4, and subtract off your 52.7. And that gives us 82.9 degrees for the missing angle.
Can we use proportion, like put it, oh, it will not go, because we did not have up to 3 numbers.
Yeah, we didn't need a proportion, we just needed to know that the angles in any triangle add up to 180 degrees.
Okay.
Okay, now the next problem involving a triangle is a story problem that I'm going to read to you, and I need you to jot down numbers as I read it. You are flying your dragon kite on 25 yards of string. The kite
Sorry,
is directly above.
Please, it's cracking. I didn't hear, because you mentioned a figure there.
You are flying your dragon kite on 25 yards of string. The kite is directly above the edge of a pond. The edge of the pond is 23 yards from where the kite is tied to the ground. How far is the kite above the pond? I'll read it again and you write down the numbers as I read. You're flying your dragon kite on 25 yards of string. The kite is directly above the edge of a pond. The edge of the pond is 23 yards from where the kite is tied to the ground. How far is the kite above the pond? Okay, so here we have a pond. And we have a kite tied to the ground 23 yards from the edge of the pond. All right, and the kite is flying in the air on 25 yards of string. So here it is, flying in the air. Here's your kite. On 25 yards of string. And your challenge is to find how far is the kite above the pond. Okay, so what we're really finding here is the height of a right triangle. Okay, now there's a special theorem that we learned last week that helps us relate the sides of a right triangle. Do you remember what theorem it is?
No, I don't remember.
It's the Pythagorean Theorem that says
Pythagorean
The
Thrm.
first side squared plus the second side squared equals the longest side squared. So in our problem, we have the 23 side, and we have the longest side called the hypotenuse. So we can fill in those amounts, but we don't know this height right here. We'll call it side B. Okay, now we can fill in the numbers that we know. We have 23 squared is 529. We don't know the b squared, so we'll still keep it as b squared. And 25 squared is 625. Okay, now we need to solve for the b squared. So to get that b squared alone, we're going to subtract 529 from both sides of the equation. So that leaves us with b squared is 96. 625 minus 529 is 96.
25 squared. Then
Okay, and then the final thing we need to do, so we don't need b squared, we need b. So we need to take the square root of both sides. So we have b equals, now taking the square root of both sides, you would need plus or minus, but because we're dealing with a length, we can ignore the minus part. So we just have the square root of 96, and it says round to the nearest tenth. So you put square root of 96 in your calculator. And rounding that to the nearest tenth, what do you get?
5 minus, just give me a second, minus 5 minus 5 to 9. Okay, that's we get 96. Okay, I got it now. 96. Square root of 69. I got a 9.8. Approximate it. 9.8.
9.8 is correct because we're rounding to the nearest tenth. It came out, the square root of 96 is 9.7975958, blah, blah, blah. But
Yes.
rounding to the nearest tenth, the 9 says to bump the 7 up to an 8. Okay, and all of the rest of the problems on the test are like ones that I've already gone over. Patients, since you got here a little late, you might want to go back and listen to the recordings that I'll be posting a little later today.
Yes, I will.
But anyway, that brings us to the end of the review for the Chapter 7 test.